Hare Krishna. Okay, so the audio is clear. So we'll continue with the introduction. ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां। So Bhagavad Gita basically deals with 5 topics. One is Ishvara, or the Supreme Lord, then Jiva, all of us living entities. When we say Ishvara, he is the infinite Supreme Lord, and Jivas are the infinitesimal or minute living entities, and Prakriti, or the material nature or the cosmic manifestation, Karma, or the activities done by these Jivas. What kind of activities? It can be activities through the mind, or words, or the body. Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. So these are all considered as karma because they'll all have reactions. And finally, time or kala. All the other 4 entities or the principles, that is jivas, then prakriti, karma, kala, these are all under the control of the Lord. Only the Supreme Lord is independent. And jivas, or we, the living entities, we also have little bit of knowledge, but not infinite knowledge like the Supreme Lord. And what is that knowledge? So we are aware of our own field of action, or the body and the mind. So that is called as kshetra. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna makes it very clear that even though we are aware of only our kshetra, but the Supreme Lord, as Paramatma, he is situated in the heart of all living entities, and in fact he is all pervasive. That means he is present everywhere, and therefore he knows what is going on everywhere and what is going on in inside all the living entities, inside all our hearts. Kshetragnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So this is the clear distinction that the jivas or living entities are present only in their own body, and they are aware of only their own bodies, but the Supreme Lord is aware of all other bodies, and therefore he is the supreme consciousness. And therefore, because he is aware of everything, and therefore he is able to control everything as well, and he is the one who gives directions to the living entities as to how to act according to their own desire, and what they deserve according to their karma. Because the living entity doesn't remember. Let's say we had many desires in our previous lifetime, and in this lifetime we are given a chance to act upon those desires. And how will we remember unless the Lord reminds us about it? So therefore, the living entity, individual living entity, he keeps changing the bodies according to his desires and according to his work or karma. And even his activities are also, now everything is basically divided into 3 divisions: first class, second class, and third class. The entire cosmic manifestation is made of these 3 divisions of material energy. That means mode of goodness, or sattva guna, mode of passion, rajoguna, Mode of ignorance, tamoguna. So it is the same material energy. It is manifest in these three different forms. So we, as long as we are in this material world, we have to be within one or more of these energies. So we are always being controlled by them. So therefore, whatever activities we perform, either mentally, verbally, bodily, everything will fall under these three categories. And then we will also get the results accordingly in these three categories. Um, Therefore, the awareness or the consciousness the Lord is talking about here, um, it is it is not something that belongs to this material world or these three categories of energy. That is completely spiritual. So consciousness is spiritual, and that is coming from the spirit soul. So it is the spirit soul which is inside the material body. So the material body is made up of these three divisions of energy: sattva, raja, or tamaguna. But the spirit soul or the jiva is completely different from all this. Only when we think that, when we identify ourselves with this body, when we think that we are this body, then we have the contaminated consciousness. And practically everybody in this world, we all think we are the body. Um, and that is our mistaken identity. Therefore, unless we perform bhakti to the Supreme Lord, and unless we are purified, then we won't understand that we are actually not this body, we are the spirit souls. So, when uh, um, when a living entity is completely purified of his consciousness, and then whatever activities he performs, that will all be spiritual also. And those purified activities are known as bhakti, because everything now in bhakti, it will be for the sake of Supreme Lord. He's no more selfish, he's not acting just for himself. Such a state, purified state, is known as bhakti. And even though externally a devotee and just a regular person, they may also be doing, both may seem to be doing the same activities, but their inner thinking or consciousness is very different. One is doing all his activities for the sake of the Supreme Lord, another is doing for his own sake, and therefore he is bound by this material energy. But the devotee is not bound by the material energy, because he is acting on a spiritual platform. So this uh, mistaken consciousness or mistaken identity is known as false ego, through which we think we are this body and everything related to the body is ours, me and mine. So this is um, what is known as false ego or ahankara. And when we are freed from this bodily conception of life, and when we understand that no, no, I'm not this body, I'm the spirit soul, and I'm part and parcel of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, that is known as mukti or liberation. So when that is when these uh, modes of material energy, sattva, raja, or tamoguna, we get released from their influence. So what is really the definition of mukti or liberation means? Muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. This is a very clear definition given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That means even when we are liberated, we will have a specific identity. It's not that everything is very vague or we don't know what we are. No, when we are liberated, then we actually understand who we really are and what is our eternal identity. Accordingly, our eternal identity is that we are um, eternal servants or devotees of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, and then accordingly we will act. That means we'll start serving the Lord in that pure consciousness. So, all this is to be understood by studying the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And even after making a show of study of Bhagavad Gita, uh, most of the people, they really don't arrive at this conclusion. That is because they are not taking the knowledge from the right source. And also, another symptom of false identity or false ego is that um, we think that everything that we have access to, everything we see, everything is for my enjoyment, and I'm the enjoyer. So, but actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mm, categorically says that he is the real ultimate enjoyer. Bhoktaram yagitapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. But when we cooperate with him and cooperate with his plan, then by serving him, we also enjoy. It's not that we will be uh, deprived of enjoyment and we will be suffering when we come to bhakti or to the spiritual world, but it's the opposite. Now we are trying to independently enjoy from the Lord, and that's why we get frustrated. We don't get eternal happiness, but when we uh, cooperate with the plan of the Lord, just like how uh, different parts of the body, they all have their own specific functions. When they do everything, their own functions, um, and they help uh, the food. Finally, the body has to get the food, and then the hands and legs have to work for it, and then finally, when the food reaches the mouth will have to chew it and all that, and then finally it is passed on to the stomach. But the stomach doesn't do anything. All that it does is just enjoys the food. So, in the scriptures, there is a story saying, when all the other parts of the body became envious, thinking that, oh, we are doing all the hard work, but only the stomach is deriving all the enjoyment. Then they thought, why should we do all the hard work? Even we are not going to do anything. So they went on a strike. But then ultimately everybody suffered. They all suffered. Therefore, they understood that no, we have to do our bit, our specific duty, then we will eventually get nourished. Therefore, when we, similarly, we all different parts of the Supreme Lord, and therefore we have to um, serve Him in whatever manner is suitable for us, and then we will also enjoy. So this is the real way to um, lead a spiritual life, by including the Lord in everything we do and do everything for His uh, pleasure. Then we will also become happy. So now, in all these 5 concepts that the Bhagavad Gita talks about, uh, everything is eternal except for karma. All the other 4 principles, namely the Supreme Lord, the material manifestation of the material nature or prakriti, then eternal time, eternal time, and the living entities, they're all eternal except for karma. Only karma is um, temporary, in the sense that once we take to bhakti, the Supreme Lord can undo all the karma if he wishes. So, karmani nirdahati kinchuta kintu cha bhakti bhaja. So therefore karma is not eternal. And the Supreme Lord, or the Absolute Truth, is Sri Krishna, and he has various different energies. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. That's what it is said in all the Vedas. And generally people think that the Lord is impersonal, or he's just some energy. They say, I don't believe in all these different forms of the Lord, but I know there is some energy out there. What is that energy? That impersonal energy, or the um, effulgence or the impersonal light. Many a times people have this conception that, oh, it is some kind of a light. So all these conceptions are uh, originating from the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, that he is uh, clarifying in the Bhagavad Gita. Brahmano hi pratisthaham. So we should always try to see what the scriptures are saying, what the Supreme Lord is saying, because our own knowledge is very limited. Therefore, um, a very vivid example is given in this sense that, first of all, when we think about the sun, there is the sunlight. So even before the sun rises, we see the light of the sun. So there is the sunlight, then there is the sun disk. So some people have access to only these. Um, there are people who are more advanced in their knowledge, so they can actually um, see the sun god or the sun planet as well. So therefore, there is a deity or the devata who is in charge of the sun planet. So nowadays we have a very different conception. Scientists say the sun is a star and all that. So we are not getting into that. So we are just saying that every everything in this whole material manifestation has a person working behind the scenes, and nothing can run on its own. Even in our own experience, even if the most automated machines or robots, first of all, there is a creator behind it. Someone would have created it, and after creating it, we will still need a person to run it, turn it on or off. So similarly, all these different machineries in this cosmic manifestation, they're also being run by different devatas. Similarly, the Supreme Lord can also be understood in three stages. One is his the effulgent rays coming out of the Lord's body. It's like the sunshine. That is what most people think of the Lord in his energetic form. Then there is the Lord's localized aspect or Paramatma. There is one portion of the Lord, he is sitting in everybody's heart as Paramatma, as a supreme witness and friend. And then finally, the Supreme Lord himself, as he is created in the spiritual world, and he is known as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and that Bhagavan is none other than Govinda or Krishna. And he is ultimately the cause of all causes. Everything is finally coming from the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And his form is not an ordinary form. Many times people think, if Lord is omnipresent, is present everywhere, then how can he be in one form? Just like the sun. The sunshine is, we can see that there is the sunlight is present everywhere. So it is easy to understand that if the Lord is energy, then he can be present everywhere. But if he is a person, then he has a form, then he can't be present everywhere. So, but this is only for calculation. But in the spiritual world, the Supreme Lord has unlimited potencies. He can manifest himself everywhere, both as energy and as a person too. So because his form is not like our form, his form is not made of blood, pus, mucus and all these different elements of this material nature, but his form is made of knowledge and bliss. His very form is made of knowledge and bliss, and his form is eternal, and therefore he is known as Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, form which is made of knowledge and bliss, and which is eternal. And the Vedas further confirm that he is also a person. We are all persons, we all have our individuality, and among all the different individuals, he's the leader. So he's um, the supreme transcendental person. So it is known as Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Among all the eternals, he's the most supreme. Among all the conscious living beings, he's the most supreme. So this is from the Katha Upanishad. Therefore, he is a person who has a transcendental form, which is something beyond what we have experienced. So in this material world is made up of so many elements, physical elements like the earth, water, air, fire, and so on. So Sankhya philosophy is a branch of knowledge which gives detailed information about all this. What are the different elements that make up the whole universe? So after uh, giving all the detailed account of all these, they come up to account of 24 elements. But then the spirit soul is beyond that. It doesn't come under the category of any of these elements because it belongs to a completely different energy of the Lord. So all these 24 elements come under the material energy, yet there is another energy called a spiritual energy, and all these living beings belong to that particular form of spiritual energy. So it is a conscious energy, and all these other material elements, they are not conscious. That means we've also studied in school. Uh, there are living beings and non-living beings. So non-living things are, they don't have any consciousness. It's not a person. It's just a thing. So, but living beings they are all persons. They have consciousness. So this is the difference between uh, these are the two different energies of the Lord, and he talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita, and all this Vedic knowledge that we get from the Supreme Lord, um, we keep quoting from these Vedic sources of information because they are infallible. Vedas are called Apaurushaya because it is not a product of any uh, human, what to speak of human, not even it is not a product of any created being. So it was not created, it has always been there, it is eternal because it is an eternal part of the Supreme Lord. It is as good as the Lord himself. So therefore Vedas or these scriptures, they never go wrong. They're always flawless, just like the Supreme Lord. And whatever the Vedas claim, we have to accept them in toto as it is. Some things may make sense to us, some things may not make sense to us, because again they deal with some things which are imperceptible to our current material senses. So whatever be the case, we have to accept uh, the Vedas to be completely 100% true. So now, even in scientific matter, so to speak, it is not that every individual will go around verifying each and everything on his own. No, some things are verifiable by us, um, so we are able to make it may make sense to us, and so naturally we presume that okay, rest of the things are also probably verifiable, maybe by scientists who have higher knowledge or and higher apparatus to uh, you know experiment it or whatever. So there is some faith even there. Similarly, even in Vedic knowledge as well. Some branches or some portions are readily verifiable, we can verify, just like Ayurveda and Jyotisha. So Ayurvedic medicines, whatever they say, if we follow the protocol, they work. That means that portion of Ayurveda, yeah, we are able to verify it immediately. And even astrology also, we can immediately see the results. We can verify. Therefore, we can understand that yes, the entire body of the Vedas, they can't be random. They have to have, they are very scientific. Some things may be beyond our perception, but still we accept it. So, there an example is given, like, according to the Vedic understanding, if a person happens to touch the stool of an animal, he immediately becomes contaminated. In fact, he has to take bath to purify himself. But the same Vedas also are saying, however, if you touch cow dung, that is very purifying. What to speak of taking bath? One purifies himself by with the help of a cow dung. Now, how is that? It may seem contradictory, but as I said earlier, we have to understand that the Vedas are beyond reproach. They never go wrong. Whatever they are saying is true, and therefore we have to completely submit ourselves to the Vedic understanding, and we have to understand that whatever the Vedas say is true, even though we may not be able to completely verify. Of course, many scientists have done a lot of experiments about all this, and they have also confirmed that cow dung, cow urine, they have a lot of antiseptic properties, and they're actually they are purifying in that sense. That is verifiable also in one sense. Okay, just a minute. So, that way we can, whether we are able to verify or not, we have to understand the Vedas are always true, they are correct. Therefore, we don't have to waste our time doing research and trying to understand whether the Vedic knowledge is correct or not. So, we have to, all we have to do is just accept it from the right source, then we are sure to get all benefit. And it should be coming from the right source, in the sense uh, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo viduhu. It should be got from a bona fide chain of disciplic succession. That means, originally, the Vedic knowledge comes from the Supreme Lord Himself. Then it's passed on uh, to his disciple and his disciple's disciple and so on. So this will be a succession of uncontaminated spiritual masters, and they're all seers, so we will never be misled by anybody's misinterpretation. That way, this Vedic knowledge will be carefully handed down, and finally, when we receive it and we accept it as is, then we will also get the message as was spoken and intended by the Supreme Lord, without interpretation, deletion, or um, addition of anything new. It should be taken as is. Because the words spoken by the Lord or his pure representatives, who are beyond the influence of this material energy, sattva, raja, tama, um, they are beyond the four defects that people of this material world, or we mundane people, we are contaminated by the four defects. And what are those four defects? Tendency to commit mistakes, then tendency to be illusioned, tendency to cheat others, and also we are also limited by our imperfect senses. So with these four imperfections, we can never deliver perfect information as it is. Therefore, we should always receive this transcendental knowledge through people who are beyond the four defects. And we can only benefit by repeating whatever we hear from these liberated souls. We have to accept it as it is, and we have to also repeat it as it is. Then we are also benefited, even though we may not be above the four defects. So we all know that we all commit mistakes, and we may not be always selfless. There may be always some tendency to cheat, and we can be illusioned. First of all, the biggest illusion is that we are thinking we are this body, when we are not even out of the bodily conception. Everything we see through those lens will be mistaken. So that way we are illusioned, and certainly our senses are very limited and imperfect. We can give a very small example. Our eyes can see only when there is light, sunlight, and that too in a particular wavelength of the light, and beyond that our eyes can't see, and beyond a certain distance our eyes can't see, and so many limitations. Then how then can we even claim that we can experimentally verify at all, even with whatever apparatus the scientists use? To what extent can they really access is really questionable. So, and it is impossible. It's not possible to access different dimensions, even within the material world, what we speak of the spiritual world. So, therefore, this Vedic knowledge is never imparted by such defective living entities. Spiritually elevated or liberated entities like Brahma, Narada, Shiva, all of these people, they are the authorities of Vedic knowledge. So they transfer the Vedic knowledge that they have received originally from the Supreme Lord. And also, the Vedas also always talk about the concept of who is the proprietor of everything, that is the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Since he is the Supreme Lord of everything and he is the proprietor of everything, nobody can claim anything to be theirs other than the quota set aside for them. Therefore, there are all these laws of the universe that are being they're already been set by the Supreme Lord, and when one transgresses these laws, as is happening in today's world, because practically everybody in today's world thinks, has taken material nature for granted, and When humans go on exploiting the material nature, thinking that it is there for our enjoyment, then that is when we transgress the laws of the Supreme Lord, and not only do we make harm for others, and for the material nature, but for ourselves in return. Therefore, we should always stick to whatever is our own quota that has been set aside. Just like even our eating habits. So, whatever is set aside for human beings, that's all we have to take. Uh, we don't have to eat what has been set aside for other animals or tigers or lions. So, all the non vegetarian food and meat, it is for those living beings. They don't come and take our grains and our fruits and herbs that are meant for human beings. Therefore, the whole ecosystem is balanced when everybody acts according to their own position. So there are many examples, and even in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains, how when we utilize that are set aside things that are given to us, set aside for us by the Lord, um, then everything will be in harmony. Um, when Arjuna decided also not to fight, this was his decision, and because he was thinking he won't be able to enjoy the kingdom even after fighting with his own cousins, his own teachers, and all of that. Therefore, he didn't want to fight, but the Lord uh, did not support that idea. It was not for him to enjoy, because it was again self centered. He was thinking, okay, because I'm this body and these are all my relatives, they're all related to this body. And therefore, in order to satisfy his own bodily demands, he thought it was not wise to fight. But Lord Krishna spoke on a completely different level. He is talking on the level of spirit soul. And therefore, he said, finally, when Arjuna understood that we have to carry out our duties as set aside by the Lord for us, then we will live in harmony. For him, it was about fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra, because that was what was the duty that was set aside by the Lord, and that will bring about peace, even though it was at the cost of many lives, but in order to establish dharma that was required. Therefore, the scriptures and Bhagavad Gita uh, always tell us we should rise above this bodily consciousness, because all the animals and all the living entities, um, they're already doing that, and we've also done that in different living entities. Um, when in our different lifetimes, where we have gone through different species of life, but in this life, as humans, our primary duty is to um, come to this platform of spiritual understanding. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. And finally, we have to transcend, we have to go beyond these uh, modes of material nature, that is, goodness, passion, or ignorance, sattva, rajatama, guna. We have to go beyond that, and we have to attain the spiritual kingdom. Then our human life is successful. And yes, there is a spiritual sky beyond this material world, and because in today's day and world, it is all thought of as fictitious and something fantastic. But the Lord is confirming here there is such a sky, there is such a spiritual world. Uh, after reaching there, we will never come back here. So, therefore, we have to go to that eternal place full of happiness, instead of being in this temporary place full of miseries. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. Because we are all jivas and we are all eternal beings, we are not happy in being in a place which is temporary. We also belong to that eternal spiritual world, and that is why all these scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, are directing us towards that. Because we are all eternal, we also have an eternal occupation. That is our Sanatana Dharma. That means the eternal occupation or dharma of every living entity is to serve the Supreme Lord. That is the real occupation of every spiritual jiva. And by doing that, that is by doing bhakti, then gradually we can give up all other engagements and we can be transferred to the spiritual world and where we can live in pure life. So this is the message and sum and substance of Bhagavad Gita. Both the Supreme Lord and his abode are all transcendental, and so are the living entities. But because we are caught up in this material world, we are thinking we belong here, um, we are this material body. So this Sanatana Dharma, or the eternal occupation of all living entities, it is not really, it doesn't belong to any caste or religion, so to speak. It belongs to everybody. It is not a sectarian concept, but it is the real function of a spirit soul. Every spirit soul is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Whether it doesn't matter where they belong to, which region they are from. Therefore, because we belong to the Supreme Lord, we are all obligated to serve Him. So that is our eternal position. Sripada Ramanujacharya explains what is Sanatana Dharma. That means Sanatana is something which has no beginning nor end. It was always there, and it will continue to be there. So we can even in our own experience, we can see that a living entity can never give up serving. We have to serve someone. Even if people have no family, they'll finally, even in especially in the Western countries, Srila Prabhupada had noted this. Even if someone is living alone, they will keep a dog and they will be serving the dog. So similarly, everybody has a propensity to serve. We generally serve our loved ones, our family, or friends, or our country, or humanity, and so on. So these are all extensions of our own bodily concept. But finally, when we come to the understanding that we all belong to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, then we will serve the entire creation and the Supreme Lord. Therefore, that is our eternal occupation. That means to serve the Supreme Lord. So this is the Sanatana Dharma. So religion is something, it may change. One may convert to a different religion, different faith, but the Sanatana Dharma will never change. This is something that is the eternal function of every living being. There are no religious boundaries will matter. It really doesn't come in the way of all this. So it's really Srimad Bhagavad Gita is actually a non-sectarian scripture, so to speak. It is applicable universally at all times, all people, and if we see even in the history, there are many religious faiths that may have come into being at certain points in time, and some may even become it may just go into the oblivion, or it may be forgotten after some time. But the Sanatana Dharma is something that has always been there, and will always continue to be there. Just like the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, it has always existed eternally, but at some points in time they may not be manifest, or they may be misunderstood. Therefore, the Supreme Lord Himself comes to re-establish this eternal knowledge that He confirms in the Bhagavad Gita. Sakalene hamahata yogo nashta parantapa. So, with time, in this material world, everything tends to become contaminated or lost. Therefore, the Supreme Lord Himself will come and re-establish it. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has very nicely clarified this concept of Sanatana Dharma, or what is our real eternal identity or Swarupa of every living being. So, Jivera Swarupa Nityera Krishnadas. So, everybody is a servant, a loving servant of the Supreme Lord. Servant doesn't mean what we see in this material world, that to become one servant is considered very rather humiliating, or it may not be very very pleasing. But to become the servant of the Supreme Lord is something very pleasing. It is voluntary service. Therefore, finally, we have to come to this conclusion that our supreme occupation is, and our eternal occupation is, to become the Supreme Lord's devotee or servant. Actually, everybody is serving the Lord. Some may do it in knowledge and voluntarily. Some may do it without their knowledge, because everything is under the control of the Supreme Lord. When He is the Supreme Controller, so this entire creation is running according to His instructions, His setup. So, even those living entities who think they don't believe in God, or they are atheistic or so on, they're also being controlled by the same Supreme Lord. That means nobody is outside of that Lord's service. Everybody is serving. Some are serving without their knowledge, and some voluntarily, when they agree to serve the Lord, they become glorious and they are called as His devotees. Some may also serve different devatas, thinking that some people think, okay, this devata is the most supreme, I am his devotee, so I may serve this devata, or someone may serve another devata and try to get some other benefit. Just like some people generally, if they want a good husband or a good wife, they pray to Durga Devi. Or if someone needs a lot of money, they pray to Lakshmi Devi, or so on. But people think that you can just worship anybody, any devata, and you will get the same result. But that is not true. Krishna says that whoever worships me, they come to me. But yanti deva vrata devan pitru nyanti pitru vrataha. So similarly, whoever worships which devata, they either go to their loka, or ultimately they will get a different result according to their mode of worship. But someone who worships the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, they will attain Him. And people generally worship devatas because they have some material desires. They want those desires to be fulfilled, and therefore they worship certain devatas who are designated to give us certain benedictions, or uh, they will help us fulfill those desires. But ultimately, Krishna is saying they're all, those devatas are also given the uh, power by him, by the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Where do they get that power to, uh, give us the benediction? That is also coming from Shri Krishna. All this is clarified in the 7th chapter. Kamaistaister hitagnana prapadyante anya devata tam tam niyamam asthaya prakritya niyathastvaya. So, but ultimately, they are also, these devata worshippers are also worshipping the Supreme Lord, but indirectly. So it's better they worship Supreme Lord directly, then they will benefit the most. So when we know that we can get all that we need from a wholesale store, and that too at a very good price, then why should we go through the middleman? So that is the whole point. So we should directly worship the Supreme Lord. And therefore, the Lord also comes down to this material world uh, because we are all seeking after pleasure, not knowing that that supreme pleasure is actually the Supreme Lord Himself. We are all looking for Him, but we have not realized that. So we may be going to small retail stores and we may be getting little happiness here or there. But what we need is that wholesale store, which is Sri Krishna. And therefore, He comes down to this material world time and again just to give us a little trailer of what is going on in the spiritual world, how life there in the spiritual world is so blissful and full of knowledge, and therefore he comes here to advertise that. Unless he comes and advertises, we will not know what kind of a place is that spiritual world, and why should we even go there. Just like someone wants to go to America, first of all they will have to understand what kind of a place is that, and then I didn't get that. And finally they will when they become interested, they will try to go there. Similarly, unless we get to know what kind of a place is the spiritual world and who lives there, what goes on, uh, by studying these scriptures, we understand that it's such a it's an eternal place, and uh, that place is full of bliss and knowledge, and we can live with the Lord eternally there, peacefully. And in the Bhagavad Gita also, Lord mentions about this. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatvan anivartante tadhama paramam mama. So that abode of Lord Shri Krishna is um, full of light. There is no darkness, there is no suffering, there is no problems at all. But still, when the Lord comes down, not everybody takes him seriously, or not everybody even understands that he is the Supreme Lord himself. Many even deride him and make fun of him. Therefore, if we are fortunate, then if we understand all the leelas that he does when he comes here, then we also get the faith to go back to him, to go back to the spiritual world. And the spiritual world, the Lord explains in Bhagavad Gita, everything that we see in this material world is also there in the spiritual world, and much more, because originally everything is coming from there. So this material world is just like a reflection, a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Urdhvamulam adhashakam ashwatham prahuravyayam. So when we see a reflection of a tree in a pond water, then whatever is at the top will be seen as bottom. That means the roots in the reflection will seem like that is the top, and the top portion of the tree will seem like that is the bottom. That's how it is. So um, if if there is a reflection at all, that means there is that original tree there. Without the original tree being there, how can there be a reflection? So that is why uh, our scriptures and our acharyas, they say that the very fact that we find different types of enjoyment in this world, that means it is a perverted reflection of the eternal enjoyment that is there in the spiritual world. Therefore, we have to go to that place which is the source of real happiness. And one who really is qualified to go to the spiritual world, what are his qualities? That also Lord explains. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvair vimuktaha sukha dukkha samnir gacchantya modha padamavyayam chat. So this is given in the 15th chapter where Krishna is saying, so we also have to become free from the from all these false designations and from the influence of all these this material energy, and we should become free of envy, and we should always be situated in such spiritual consciousness. So it is easy in one sense, but at the same time it's not so easy. So we have to strive for it. We have to do our sadhana. And when we also attain that spiritual quality, we will surely be transferred to that spiritual world. For that, for us to be transferred to the spiritual world, we have to be conscious of the Supreme Lord, especially at the time of death. So whatever we are thinking at the time of death is what we will attain in our next life. Therefore, the Lord says, Antakaleja mam eva smaranmatva kalevaram. Whoever leaves this body thinking only about me, he will attain me. So if someone at the last point of their at the time of leaving this body, if they are thinking of the Supreme Lord, for sure they will attain the Supreme Lord, and that is not possible it's not possible without practice. So generally, whatever we are attracted to or whatever we are attached to throughout our lifetime, we will end up thinking about the same thing even at the time of death, naturally. So whatever we are thinking of or doing throughout the day, most of the time that's what we'll end up dreaming about also. Similarly, therefore we have to prepare ourselves throughout our lifetime actually. Then finally, at the time of death, we can easily think of the Supreme Lord and also be transferred to his abode. So as we already mentioned, then there is this outside of this material world, there is Brahma Jyoti, or the spiritual effulgence, spiritual light. So in the spiritual world, there is no question of darkness. There is spiritual light everywhere, coming from the Lord's body and from the spiritual planets. So someone who goes beyond this material world, they will come out of this darkness that is pervading this material world. So they'll come into the light of the spiritual world. That is known as the Brahma Jyoti. Many a times there are impersonalists, they want to merge into that immaterial light or the spiritual light. They will go merge into this light, or so they think. But even that is not very much recommended by Vaishnava Acharyas, because that
bliss or ananda it cannot even be compared to the bliss that one can get by uh, being in the spiritual planets where the Supreme Lord lives and serving Him by seeing Him face to face. So, some people would like to uh, also merge into the Paramatma. They are known as the Paramatmavadis. And finally, it is only the devotees or the bhaktas. They would like to go to this. By doing bhakti yoga, they are transferred to the spiritual planets known as the Vaikuntha planets, where Lord resides in his various forms as Krishna, Rama, Narasimha, Vamana, and so on. And the devotees will be transferred to one of those planets, and they live there eternally and peacefully by serving the Supreme Lord, uh, who is their Ishtadeva. Whatever um, form of the Lord they were worshipping throughout their life, uh, they will attain that form of the Lord later also. Therefore, whatever we think at the time of death or the last moment of this life is very, very crucial. That also Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. यम यम वापि स्मरण भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Because whatever we are thinking at the time of death, we will surely attain that in our next life. Therefore, if we have to think about the Lord, then we have to always practice thinking about Him throughout our life. And how can we think about Him? How can we think about someone? When we love someone, we will naturally think about them. Unless we know about someone, we will not be able to love them. Therefore, first of all, we have to hear about them. That is why first Shravanam, that means we have to read or hear this Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures. Then we understand who the Supreme Lord is, and then we will naturally talk about them, and we will do their the Kirtana, Nama Sankirtana, especially in this Kali Yuga is most important. So we keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we do the Kirtana, and then when we do both Shravana and Kirtana, then we are able to automatically remember the Supreme Lord, and then therefore go back home, back to Godhead. So finally, this marks the end of the introduction. At the end of the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada also mentions the disciplic succession in which he is connected to. So, all the way from Krishna, Lord Krishna, the spiritual knowledge is transferred to Brahma, then Narada, Vyasa, then Madhvacharya, then his disciple Padmanabha, and so on. And finally, after 21 generations, and the 22nd disciple in this succession is Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who appeared 500 years back, and then from him the spiritual knowledge was transferred through his disciples, the Goswamis known as Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, all of them, and or Swarup Damodara Goswami, and so on. And then finally from them to their disciples, and so on, and all the way till 31st in the disciplic succession known as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has very, very mercifully given this great transcendental knowledge as it is, without any contamination to the whole world in the form of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And that same A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada comes in this disciplic succession that we are mentioning. So this is known as the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So this is in the Brahma's disciplic succession, and Madhvacharya carried it forward, and one of the branches of Madhva Sampradaya, known as the Gaudiya Sampradaya, which was carried forward by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. So this marks the end of the introduction to this Bhagavad Gita as it is. So we will start from chapter 1 in the next session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.